Welcome to Steve McDonald's Arts and Crafts. I've been asked a couple of times to do a video on making a galaxy in a sphere. So what I've got is, I've got a piece of acetate here, clear acetate, which I'm going to do the first method on. And that means that I need to make a cone first before I put it into the spheres. So I'm just going to cut that out. So I cut that out. I'm not sure if you can see that. And now what I need to do is I need to find the center, which is about there, and cut out that bit there. And I'm just going to put a bit of double-sided tape on this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold that round to make a nice secure cone that will then fit into there that I can pour resin in. But I will put another bit of tape over the top of that just to check that there is no holes or anything for it to come through. So I've made the cone, there we go, and it fits into there quite nicely. And what I want is, I want to fill this up with resin up to the edge of this half of the sphere. And then what I've done is I've mixed up my resin, and as you can see, it's as bubble free as possible. I am literally, all I'm going to be doing is pouring that in there until it gets to that line. And then I'm going to let that cure, just sitting in there. Cone has now cured nicely. You need to get it off this acetate, which it shouldn't take too much to do. What we'll be doing is we'll be viewing it from inside here. So whatever's on the outside here, that's what we'll be seeing. Using some metallic acrylic paints. Now I will put the list of these in the description for anybody if they want to know which ones I'm using. All I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be painting them on with it and looking at it through this way. So for example, if we paint that bit of gold on there, what we'll see is we will see that gold come through the other side, and that is how we will experience this once this is all cleaned up, because it will need a bit of a polish as well. And it might have to have 2 or 3 coats, but that's not a problem. Now, and as you can see from that side, you've got quite a spirally shape, but where I've got these solid colours, it is quite solid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a toothpick and scratch some little dots off that I want to shine through just randomly here, as if it's a nebula. And I'm also going to scratch off an elliptical circle as well, which I'm going to paint in white. And it's quite easy to do. Once it's on the resin, you just have to go around it after it's dry and do that, as you can see. And then once I've done that, I'm going to prepare the bases for this one. So this will be the base for that. So there we go. I've scratched those circles off how I want them and put some dots in. And as you can see from that side, once I clean the paint off, you'll be able to see them better. They've come through. And I want those to be white where I've scratched it off. It's not going to show through because the other paint, other than where I've scratched it off, because the other paint is covering that up. Okay, so we'll put that to one side, let that dry. Just going to paint over the whole thing with black acrylic paint. Let that cure, Mod Podge it, and then cover it in black glitter. Because from the other side, once the sphere's been done, it's going to look just like a glittery, hopefully, black hole. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be prepping these. All I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be filling that up there with some clear bubble free resin. as much as I can get it bubble free without a pressure pot. Putting that to one side. The next method I'm going to be doing is using just another piece of acetate. And this is a method that I have seen before, but I've kind of adapted it to my own use. And I'm going to flood this acetate until it gets to almost like it's domed, until it gets to the edges where I want it. And you've seen me do this where I've made the ribbons. You've seen me do this where I've made the embellishment. So now it's on that piece of acetate. What I've got here is I've got some glow-in-the-dark powder, and you can use whatever colour you like. You don't have to use the same colour as I'm using. So I'm just going to pop a bit in the middle. And then I'm just going to go into it with my cocktail stick and push that around. Okay, so I'm just going to go through here with a little bit of this. There we go. And I'm now going to do exactly the same as I did before. Okay, so I've got some glitter in here, and it's just silver glitter. And the only reason I'm doing it like this is I only want a little bit over it. I don't want a really heavy coating of it. Prepare the base for this one that I did on the acetate as well, which is going to be this one. I just want to do it about halfway up, maybe a little bit less, maybe a bit more, doesn't really matter. Make sure there's no bubbles in any of the corners, which there can often be, and let that cure. Once that's cured, I will then put this in its place, which is the one that I did on the acetate. Pulling acetate off, you should pull the acetate off and down as opposed to, there we go, it's off, as opposed to pulling the resin, because if the resin's quite fragile, then it will break. So that's ready. Once that's cured, to pop in there on top and then cover up, and you'll see the magic work. So this is the cone one, and as you can see, I've painted the bag and covered it in glitter as well, and it shines quite well. And I've made sure I've cleaned that face up really, really well. What we're going to do is put that into this one here. And if we just push that down onto it, or just fill this with resin and put that in, you'll get a lot of air bubbles underneath. So my suggestion is, and this does help, it doesn't always stop them, but it does really help, is that you put a bit of resin on the face of this first, almost to flooding point, I would say. Make sure it gets to all the sides. Okay, make sure there's no air bubbles in it. That's the last thing we want. And then push that down really quickly and quite firmly onto that cured piece of resin that we're using as the, really, it's like a magnifier in the whole sphere. And what I do is I pop that on the top, and then I'll take my glue gun and I will hold that down so it's nice and firm, and then just go around that seam with hot glue, because if you don't, then it will leak out, because however good these things are, they always leak. Here's the disc that we had. So all we need to do now is, again, put a bit of resin on the back of this one. It's covered evenly. Put that in there like so. Push it down quite hard. And I actually do this with all my transfers as well, because I feel it really does help. Stops them lifting up. Position that to where you want it. And then what I'm going to do is, around those edges, I'm just going to sprinkle the tiniest bit of glitter to tie it kind of all in. A little bit of silver. And tiny bit of black. So this one is now ready to pour. I pour it in slowly in a thin stream until I get to the desired desired height. And if you've got as fewer bubbles in your resin when you mix it up as possible, and if you're not sure how to do that, then check out my video on how to mix resin without bubbles. This one, again, I can just pour that over the top of that. Let it degas a little bit. Make sure there's no bubbles caught in the edge. These have had 24 hours now, so they're nice and cured. So the first thing I want to say is, it is really easy to get this hot glue off your silicone moulds. There we go. All come off. Nice and easy. And then I'm a bit nervous of how this is going to come out now, because there's a lot of work. Now, I purposely didn't fill it up to the top because I want a flat base for it to be able to sit on. So let's have a look. Ah, there we go. So this is what I meant by it being, and this will need slightly sanding, but this is what I mean by being magnified inside once you fill it. And that cone now looks really, really long, and I think that's come out very well. I love how that's come out. And you could use all different colours and things. I think that's made a really nice galaxy. Just something a little bit different. And from the back as well, it's nice and glittery, and that looks really good. And it looks rounded as well, rather than cone shape, which is great. And there we go. And this one here was a different technique. This should come out quite easy. There we go. So it will glow in the dark, but it's too light in here at the moment for me to be able to show you that. But that galaxy there, you could mount that on a little wooden frame with a light underneath it, or just have it sitting on your side like that. But I really like how that's come out too. So let me know in the comments what you think. If you're interested in getting any of the bits and pieces that I've used in this video, then I will put the links below. I will put links below for both USA and the UK. So anybody in America or anyone in the UK can just follow those links and get the same products that I've used. Thank you very much indeed. Bye.